Welcome to another episode of the Cowboy Experience. I'm Eric Sims, your CX Cowboy. And as we've made our way through Texas, we've stopped in Humble, Texas today at Cypress Trails Ranch here, out here in beautiful Humble, Texas, home of the Butler family. And so today we're gonna get to ride some of these beautiful horses and show you guys what it's like to live and eat, sleep, and breathe on a horse ranch. Let's go. Hey, so as we get ready to take off today and ride some of these awesome horses, we've invited a special guest, country music singer here.
Hey y'all, my name is Kate Watson. I'm excited to ride today. Honestly, being on horses is something that's just so, it brings peace to my heart and joy. And so to get to say that, today is actually something I'm supposed to be working and, I don't think of it that way. It just, I'm really excited about that. I love horses.
Hey, Eric, I know this is an insult to your cowboyhood, but everybody here gets one with a mounting block.
Okay.
And the reason we do this is because these horses get mounted so many times a day.
Yeah.
And so rather than, when the weight of a person goes on them, it tweaks them a little bit in the withers. And
right.
If you're only riding once or twice a day,
it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah, but since they get mounted so many times.
So it has nothing to do with my inability to ride. It has to do with...
Yeah.
Concentration. Swing your right leg over.
Yeah, swing up, okay.
There you go. Go ahead and take your reins. I'm going to walk you up. Okay.
So we deal, 95% of our customers have never been on a horse. So we go through all this.
Yes, all working.
And I'm going to put the ball of your foot in this.
Oh, here. Okay, gotcha. For those watching that don't know anything about this, why am I only supposed to have my toes on there and not my heel all the way
if
through?
you were cutting or barrel racing, you'd have your whole foot stuck in, and the narrow stirrup would be right in the arch of your foot. Mm-hmm. But for long distances or trail riding, and you want to keep your heels down, it's easier and you're more balanced if you have the ball of your foot there.
There you go.
All right, now what I'm going to do, Eric, even though you know how to ride, I'm going to go through like you've never been on a horse before.
Perfect.
Okay, because this is what we do to make sure people know and stay safe.
Perfect.
All right, thumbs under, we're going to go like English type hands, thumbs under, there you go. Now, you want to pull up your reins so the horse knows you're the boss. See, you're running into your chest a little bit, so spread your hands out some, more, slide, keep constantly. No, keep sliding
slide.
Down. Yeah, sorry. And then let your thumbs kiss right in front of the saddle.
Yep.
Because what you want, pull back, what you want is a soft, straight rein there.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
Put your hands forward and squeeze your legs. Okay, that's your go. Pull back, that's your whoa. And so to turn, I want you to put your right hand all the way up here, just to give him some slack. Now drop your left hand behind your knee. We do have horses that neck rein, but most people don't know how to neck rein.
Yeah.
So we have do them the direct rein. Okay, right, left hand there behind your knee. Okay. So this is what we call the ABC lesson: whoa, go, turn, turn.
Okay.
And then when we get all your group up, we'll do the rest of the alphabet.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
I like the official instruction too. It's pretty cool.
Well, we've figured out that the more people know, the less accidents are going to happen, and the better rider they are when they leave here and they have a little bit of riding skill.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of places, you just get chunked on a horse and say follow them.
Yeah.
And we have a few follower horses, but most of them have a mind of their own.
Yeah.
So we try to train the rider to be the boss and to control the horse. And then if things go to pieces, like a tree falls and an armadillo runs under him, or another horse from another ride gets loose and runs through the group, you know how to handle your horse.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cypress Trails. My name is CeCe. Does everybody know their horse's name? Yes. So now that is your name for the next few hours. Okay. So we have to talk to each other. Everybody sit up loud and proud in the saddle for me. Heels down, back straight, booty pooched, just like this. Guys, when you're like this, you're in alignment. You're stronger this way. Okay. The opposite of this is this. When your heels come up, it throws you forward. When your heels are down, that's what keeps your assets in the saddle.
Okay guys, the creek on the left is Cypress Creek that we started out on at my ranch. It runs all the way to the west side of Houston. This used to be one of the pioneer trails through there to go east to west. If you see the water rippling down there, that's where Spring Creek comes in. It also runs west and slightly north. The bluff there, that's where I got married about 20 years ago. And it was a horseback wedding, and we had about 40 horses on that other bank, and the walkers came into the bluff. When these creeks flood, spring contributes to this one backing up, and that's when we take the horses out if we feel like we've got a danger of flooding there on the ranch. Okay, our next stop's going to be that bluff over there, so get your cameras ready. That's a really nice place to take some pictures. This is the greatest sign going. Look, everybody has to yield to the horses. You don't see them very often like this. Well, Eric, you survived.
I did. I made it. It was enjoyable. Thank you so much for taking us out. It's a beautiful, piece of property, and also all the public land we got to go on.
Yep.
As my horse is
just put
ready. He's ready to go in.
He's ready to go get some lunch.
Water and food. Yeah. But it's an exciting adventure to go out on them, right? And then hear all the stories about not only the horses, but your property and your history here within the community and within the sport of the horse riding you've done over the years.
I'm very blessed. When I bought this place, I had no idea that I was buying into a greenway 10, 20, 30, 40 years later.
Yeah.
And as mentioned, I did barrel racing and rodeo stuff till I was 31. And then once I started endurance, I had the best training ground in America, just about. I mean, we can be in Houston in 20 minutes, airport in less than 10.
Yeah.
And 2 major shopping malls not very far away either. So it's a good place to be. And with the weather in Houston, we can ride all year.
I was going to say that, it gives you the ability to ride probably 11 and a half months out of the year.
For sure.
There's those couple of weeks we get where it's no good, but other than that, it's perfect.
That's when the New Yorkers come in and they go, this isn't cold.
Yeah. All the Northerners come down, it's nothing.
And the Germans come over and they go, you don't know cold, we want to ride. And we go like, okay. And we put on another layer and out we go.
How many people do you guys see through here, a week?
Our biggest average day is 183 people
wow.
through here. Usually on a Saturday and Sunday we will do over 100. I call it butts in saddles.
Yeah.
If the weather commands a little less than that, but I usually have staff and horses prepared for over 100 riders.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it gives everybody that comes through here, the ability to get a feel of what Texas is, was, and always will be.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about doing this show with people is we find different people who have carved out their little piece of Texas that they love, and have invite other people to come in and embrace that with them. And so thank you for having us out today and letting us be part of this.
You're very welcome.
Exciting adventure.
We want to thank the Harris County Greenway for preserving this, because this will be perpetual. And we're really, really lucky to have it. This is probably the longest linear trail in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Because we can go so many directions.
Yeah.
And you'd have to have a 10, 20,000 acre ranch to cover the kind of ground that we did just today.
Just today. And it was exciting. So thanks for taking us out.
Howdy, partners. Here at the Cowboy Experience Show, we're all about connecting with the trailblazers and pioneers. That's why we're proud to partner with LEC, an outsourced contact center and CX services. At LEC, they're not just keeping up, they're setting the pace in professional services, helping businesses across the globe enhance their customer experiences and streamline operations. Leading Edge Connections, your partner in the wild west of customer experience. You can find them at leadingedgecx.com.
The Cowboy Experience Show is proud to be filmed and sponsored by one of Austin's coolest media teams. They wrangle up high-quality media for businesses, artists, and creatives who want to leave their mark. With a combo of big ideas and bold visuals, 271 Creative House is sure to make your story shine as bright as the Texas star.
All right, so we've had our lovely ride for the first half of the day, and you guys have been kind enough to invite us up into the house and have a chat. So again, thank you for taking us out on the property and with the horses. We had a blast out there. But I wanted to spend some time and let the audience and our viewers get to know you guys and your story a little bit, because I think there's a lot there. Like I think I told you earlier, part of the thing with this show is that as we looked at Texas and some of the stuff we wanted to do, we wanted to make our way around and invite our viewers into the lives of all these different nuances that makes up such cool state, right?
Yep.
And you guys have a really unique part of that, that you're doing here with what you're provisioning and why you do it. So maybe, Darolyn, we'll just start with, and by the way, you might want to introduce yourselves because the audience hadn't gotten a chance to see you yet.
My name is Darolyn Butler, and this is Cecilia
Butler. Her younger daughter.
And I graduated from Oklahoma State University, was born in southern Oklahoma, Pauls Valley. One of 5 daughters on a farm and ranch situation. So we all thought we were boys growing up. We were the original emancipated woman, right? And we worked in the fields. We worked, working cattle. I always had horses. My mom and dad were charter members of the Pauls Valley Rodeo Club.
Okay.
And so I never knew not having horses, really.
Yeah.
The college, of course, was A&M, now OSU, was furthered that. I did the Miss Rodeo Oklahoma thing, was first runner-up Miss Rodeo America, and won the Horsemanship Award, which was kind of like wearing the talent competition in Miss America, and was Miss OSU. And the funnest thing I did in that line of work was I was Miss Ford Country, which was an advertising person for Ford Motor Company, and I covered Oklahoma and a little bit in the Panhandle of Texas.
Okay.
And I got to be paid, if you can believe it, to be a cowgirl and go riding parades. And I was already running barrels at that time. So I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I mean, it was like $50 a day. It was a lot of money. And you got a convertible car to drive. And
you got a car too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good sponsorship.
Yeah. And they would have you come into festivals and rodeos all over the Oklahoma and the Panhandle and be a celebrity.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because it was a job, but it was still a kind of a celebrity status. So I got some experience behind the camera, in front of the camera at that point, and it was kind of fun. Then when I graduated, I went on down to Dallas, and I was going to be an aspiring actress and model down there, and it worked for about a year, and I ended up getting taken on a scam, if you can believe that.
Not in Dallas.
Oh, in Dallas, yeah. And it's a very long story. We won't go into it, but I thought, I was down about $3 grand, and I thought it was all the money in the world. So I went, I've got to do something to make that money back. And I when I was modeling some at the apparel marts, and so it was a Western market, and I started going from the different Western people's manufacturers' rooms. And Tony Lama, the cowboy boot, had just opened up with a line of ladies' handbags, belts, and buckles. And they were kind of looking for women because the guys were all too macho to carry a handbag in to try to sell it to a store. So I was one of the first females to be traveling in a Western type avenue. And when I went to interview for the job, there was 2 positions open, one in Oklahoma and one in Texas. And I was all hoping I would get the Oklahoma territory because it would make it really easy for me, being because my home ranch was in Pauls Valley and I knew the state. But the guy that interviewed first got it, and so the divine intervention, I came to Texas. And I loved Texas. I was already here, but I did travel out of there for about a year. But Houston, this was during the time of the Dallas and the Mickey Gillies and the urban cowboy craze. And it was a wonderful time to be in the Western business. And but Houston was crazy. There was 200 Western stores here alone.
Oh, wow.
As big as Cavender's, bigger than Cavender's, if that gives you an idea of how many and how big they were. So I was traveling back and forth from Dallas. I said, I got to get a place to live here so I'm not traveling quite so much. And I was just going to get a condominium. And my horses were still in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I was anxious to get them back down with me. I'd never not lived with my horses. And so in the course of looking, I found a little ad in the Houston Chronicle when people used to read ads in the newspapers for a house in 2.5 acres with a barn. And that barn is still standing. That was in 1973. And I had friends that kind of helped me wade through the purchase process and got the house and the barn and figured out a way to get the horse fed when I was on the road. And that's what brought me here. I loved the piney woods. I just thought they were the greatest thing ever. And I wanted for sure to have a place in the piney woods. Did that until the early 80s. And the bloom fell off the rose. At that point, the oil industry dumped. And savings and loans and everything. And again, divine intervention. I ran into a gal that was putting video tapes together about horses, just a library. And we threw in together, and I ended up starting to produce. Roy Cooper was wanting to do a roping machine advertisement, and we did that. He liked it, and he goes, I want to do a video. And so that was my first endeavor behind the camera with Roy Cooper. And his grandkids are now ropers, if you've ever heard of him. He's one of the greatest ropers ever. And I went on to a halter person, and then Martha Josie did a barrel racing tape with me. And at that point, I went to Farnham Company and said, I can't do it all, because I was trying to market and produce. And so we got married for about 20 years, and they did the marketing on it, which was a great blessing.
Farnham did? Okay.
And I still produced, and I couldn't produce anything but for them, and they couldn't sell tapes but from me. So it was a pretty good wedding. And then I did a TV show later. I did a quarterly video magazine. And by the late 90s, I was burned out sitting in an editing room. And I said, I'm going to simplify my life and have one employee, just one, ride, compete. By that time, I'd gotten really heavy into endurance. I'd left the barrel racing behind and read an article about endurance in January of 1981. And I wasn't at that moment going to go, I'm going to change sports. This is a bucket list. I want to go ride 100 miles.
I was going to say, you may want to explain what endurance racing is.
Okay.
And people may not know what barrel racing is either, but like on some of the viewers, but I definitely want you to key in on a little bit on just share a little bit about what endurance racing is.
So it's a fairly new organized sport. It wasn't really sanctioned until the 50s, 60s.
Okay.
It started basically on the West Coast. The cavalry enactments on the East Coast were pretty strong, where they'd ride, for 2 or 3 days at a time. But the touted hardest race in the world is the Tevis Cup, which starts on the east side of the Sierra Nevadas, goes over the old Pony Express Trail all the way down into Auburn, California.
Okay.
And it was started by the good old boys sitting around coffee one day wondering if today's horse was as tough as yesterday's horse. And they said, well, we'll just ride 100 miles and see.
Yeah.
And they did it under the full moon in July. And by George, they did it. There were 6 of them that did it the first time. And they loved it so much, they said, let's do it again next year. And after a couple, 3 years of doing it, the women wanted to join. They're like, oh, no, it's way too tough for the women to do something like this. But the main instigator, Wendell Roby's, his girlfriend was pretty insistent. So the women started riding it now. And as the organization goes, it's probably about 60-70% woman.
Yeah.
And I equate it to the women are natural for the endurance sport because we're nurturers. You bring a horse along slow, it takes time, a lot of training, and then eventually, it takes 4 or 5 years to get a horse ready to even do a 100-miler.
Okay.
So you've got to be very patient. And a 100-miler would be starting at 4 or 5 a.m. You have 4 or 5 vet checks, rest stops that are you have to do. And the horses are checked for lameness and metabolics. And if they're not really 100%, you're pulled. You're done.
Right.
And
All
even
they care about is the horses.
Yeah.
But there are 25 and 30 and 50-mile races that you build up to the 100. And
Yeah.
so we need more hundreds, actually. People aren't.
When I started racing, there was a lot of 100-milers. And then...
And that's the first 100 that's the first 100 she did, was the Tevis Cup.
Oh, that was the very first race?
Yes,
like that
mind blowing. Nobody does that.
Yeah. Jumped into the deep end of the pool.
Oh, man.
It's kind of like you're saying, I'm going to be a race car driver, and I think the Indy 500 is going to be my first.
My first race, yeah.
After you had me.
But
right?
no, you weren't here yet.
Yeah, okay.
And so we did it. My husband joined me out there, and we both stumbled through that thing in 98th and 99th place. It's 250 starters, and only half the field finishes every year. So we were very lady luck, but we had good horses. We ended up leasing horses in California, and the people that own the horses trained us well. We looked out in every aspect of, being umbrellaed under some good people. But we both got bit. He bought the horse, he rode in it, came back. We were determined to go back the next year, and that was when I was pregnant with CeCe.
Right.
So we skipped 1982.
But she still raced 8 months pregnant in a 25-mile race.
Just cut it down a little bit.
Just shaved that up. She still did her training rides.
Yeah.
So we joke and shaking baby syndrome.
Yeah.
So
On horses since before you were born.
yeah.
Yeah.
And my mother rode with me when she was pregnant too, so we've kept up the family tradition.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's probably something to it.
And
And
anyway,
that's what makes it so amazing that, endurance is a family-oriented sport, and just about anybody can do it if you go out and you can train, just like we did today. And the trails that we have to train on, you see, it's just as simple as that. And there's ribbons in the trails, so you see them from point to point,
Right.
And that's where things kind of get spread out. When you come into these vet checks, you've got to cool your horse until he gets a certain heartbeat per minute, and that's when you go see the vet. But so we both have been able to see the world from the back of a horse, and we both.
she and I both got into international riding. So I've ridden in Europe and South America and Canada as well.
Very cool.
And
She holds the fastest U.S. time in the President's Cup in Abu Dhabi, Dubai.
Thank you,
UAE. And I'm about 5 minutes behind her, and that's all she was #1 rider in 2001, and Sheikh Muktoum, he pays for the top 2 riders in every country to be shipped over on a horse of their choosing. And so that's a, really cool deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And they put you up, and they, and so we train in sand, hot, humidity, all the time. So as I was, and again, 250 plus riders.
Yeah.
It's like derby on horses. Hidalgo is a true story. It's about that race.
Yeah.
But it's not 1,000 miles.
no,
It's 100.
it's a few more miles in the endurance races.
And I went over in 2012, just one. And she was 4th place out of 250, and I was 19th place out of 250.
But only 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Well, it just showed what happened in those 10, 11 years. The Bedouins got much better
Right.
at it, the natives, because they were just getting into the sport in the mid-late 90s.
The Bedouins are the tribes of the Middle East, and this is where the Arabian horse comes from. And they can date back some of their lineage back over 3,000 years, you know, just keeping up with their mommy and daddy, you know, they've been doing that. And they're war horses. They were known for their endurance and stamina. That's why.
You were on a war horse today.
You certainly were.
He still heard some battle cries.
Yeah,
while we were out there.
when he thought it was competition time, it was like, let's go.
Yeah, he knew one speed in one spot. First place was it.
And as soon as he turned around.
Yeah, and that you could tell in those, you know, their breeding is just being on him for just a little bit.
Fun.
You can tell, like,
and
yeah,
it became natural to you to just have that stance.
Well, I don't know if that was my instinct or it was just survival, but
Endurance is. They both start with.
yeah, they kicked in. So, I mean, I could dive in here for probably about 3 hours on all the stuff you just dumped on us, because you had being a little bit of a Texas history guy. Like you're talking about stuff that like I remember hearing about, reading about, and experiencing, because you got all the way back to the savings and the savings and loan frauds and the boom of this and the oil. Because at that point in time in Houston, the old joke used to be, when that first oil boom went off, kind of like the one we're getting ready to see, I think, there was like more Ferraris on the road than there were anything else. Like it was the Wild West down here.
It was crazy.
And most people don't understand, like there was so much money coming through Houston and Dallas and these towns that everybody was printing money. Yeah, and then it went in the other extreme.
And actually, that kind of helped the endurance people, because the Arabian horse is the best for endurance, for long distance. The quarter horse is the fastest in a quarter mile. The thoroughbred's the fastest in a mile, but the Arabian's the fastest in 100 miles.
Yeah.
Thinner skin, denser bones, oxygen exchange rate is better, but they were very expensive. There weren't a lot of Arabians here. Well, when the crash happened, guess what? All those fancy Arabian stables went down too. And literally, you could, on occasions, get them given to you, or if you paid $500, they'd give you their papers with them. I traded a load of hay for 3 horses on one occasion, because they literally did not have the money to feed their horses anymore.
Well, that's an interesting part about your ranch now here, and is that it's predominantly Arabians is what you have. I know you've got a few other horses mixed in there, and every horse has a story, you know, of either how he or she got here or whatnot. Which horse has been your favorite horse, not just from a riding standpoint, but just from a story or whatever it may be?
One of the first purebreds we bought was a very gentle soul. I mean, he could be competitive, but I could come in after the race and toss a 3 or 4-year-old up on his back, and that was Uno, and he was wonderful. And he unfortunately met his demise with blister beetle poisoning, which is a cathardin beetle that gets in alfalfa hay. And I thought I'd lost a child, you know, and I kind of swore I'd never love one that much again. But I had an outstanding bay mare that was good. But the best horse that I ever had, the most successful competitive horse, was a really ugly Arabian, and he was so ugly when he was born. The Arabian ranch that birthed him hit him in the back pasture. They never halter broke or nothing. And they told a neighbor kid when he was about 3 or 4 years old, if you can catch him, you can have him. And the kid did. And I was riding Uno at that time, and I would sponsor him because he was underage. And so I knew he was a good horse.
Yeah.
And a year or so later, the parents called me and said, hey, we're getting divorced. We need to sell Thunder. And I'm like, okay. Well, I didn't know what kind of shape he was in at that point. And so I went ahead and bought him. The first race, I thought I'd made a real mistake because he was real clunky. And the guy I was riding with, we both had taken off our bits and riding in halters because the horse was kind of jugging along. And we got close to the finish line. And not only did they run away with us across the finish line, we ran away for another mile after that.
Oh, wow.
And so it was quite an awakening. And I was still so new in the sport that I didn't even know what I had. I really had no idea that he was the horse he was. And we ran 3,000 miles in that year, won national champion, national best condition. And
how many total miles do you have now?
I'm almost to 40,000 competition miles.
Wow.
And there were so many hundreds in that day. I did a lot of hundreds. I'm second in the world to now number of 100 milers, one day hundreds. And the guy that has slightly ahead of me is about my age, so we kind of watch each other closely to see if who's going to be strong enough to do another 100.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But with her competing, all of us competing like this, you know, and we over time had quite the collection of horses. And so in 96 was her first time to put an ad in the Yellow Pages, you know.
Well, what happened after I sold the video production company and was going to simplify my life. And people for years, because we're on a main 4-lane road right here, would come in and ask to rent a horse. And I'm like, no, I had no machine in place. But after the company was sold, a father and daughter, like you and Kippy, came in and said, oh, we want to ride. And I'm like, and I was getting ready to, I was getting ready to go out on kind of a fractious horse. And I'm like, it might not be bad to have company. And I said, okay. And I didn't even know what to charge or anything else. And we put them on. And I had 2 horses that were capable of being ridden by novices. And they just had the best time. And we did too. I did too. I loved showing them the woods and the horses. And I'm like, I could do this a little bit. I didn't want to really get all blown up in it and have a horse riding stable. But I thought I'll just dip a toe in the water here. And did a few Yellow Page ads. This is before web pages and the internet was too strong.
We'll have a breakdown of what Yellow Page ads are later. That'll be a whole separate video.
There was a telephone book 40 years ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Seriously. And it had advertisements in it. I put brochures at schools and grocery stores and all. And the business, rocked along and built better. But the neatest thing about it is I could train my endurance horses while I'm taking people out riding.
Right.
And I started doing endurance clinics, and I had people come from not just the U.S., but from abroad. And we had abroad endurance riders that would come and live with us anywhere from a week to 6 months, a year, to get techniques down.
Yeah.
And so when we went to the World Championship in 2012, I had the whole Namibian team mounted on my horses.
Oh, wow.
96, I had Argentina and Brazil riders, Spanish riders in that. And so it became really fun to lease horses to these other countries and then watch them compete as well.
Well, so you've got like every end of the stick with horse riding, right? Like,
We have something
you're
for
talking
everyone.
about, like on one end, you've got, it'd be like the same as having like an elite NFL athlete, right? And then at the same time, you're letting people who've never picked up a football come out and play as well, because you've got that entry point for people that have never been on a horse, right?
Yeah, we put the kids on he was 16 when we took him, but, we put the kids on Cytron that I took to the Middle East, but we have a horse for everyone. And that's what's so amazing,
And so I started buying some other breeds. We've got the Apps, the Paints, the Saddlebred, the Missouri Foxtrotters, the Tennessee Walkers.
Yeah.
So if you come out and you're a rider and your girlfriend is not, then we can put the girl on a walker or a gaited horse so she can keep up with you while you're doing the faster thing on the bumpy Arab.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. So, but most people, interestingly enough, really don't care if they go fast. They're really happy just walking and seeing the sights and kind of getting well acquainted with their horse and bonding with their horse. And I mean, I've had some fabulous letters afterwards how much they liked Munchie or how much they liked this horse to, they just felt, and I sell a lot of horses that way. And so it always hurts. We go round and round about which horses get sold.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great thing for a horse to go to a one-owner situation where they'll take that horse and go on and compete it or love it or
whatever it needs to do. And so I think you mentioned this to me earlier, but so as this part of the business grew, now you've got this bustling
trail riding
business. So you said earlier, I don't want to misquote the number, but how many people you come through here a day?
Our record is a little over 180 people in one day.
Okay.
So we start riding at 9 o'clock and we ride every hour, mainly till 4:30. If somebody wants to book a late ride, it's cost a little bit more, but we'll go out at 5:30 or 6 for late riders or, if their schedule just won't allow them. And we have a sunset ride. So we try to cap every hour at about 20 people if we can. So it depends on the weather, of course. You know, when it's really hot, they're not out here in droves. It's really cold, they don't either, but it averages a lot of folks a week. And then during the summer, it's a little stronger than the spring is good. Spring breaks like nuts. I mean, it's 100, over 100 every day for a couple of weeks. And it's a challenge.
What's it when you look at this and what you're doing? What is your hope with this business? Like, what do you hope people take away or walk away with when they come out here to visit?
Well, we're really, really different, very unique compared to most trail ride places. Most that you go to, they'll show you your horse. They may help you get on. There may be a mounting block. They'll put the reins in your hands. Say, follow that horse. And so you're basically a potato sitting on this horse, and you do what you can to stay on him. And if you're not shown the proper way, and as I talk to you guys, if you don't put a lot of weight in your feet, then that comes in your seat and then you're sore. So I really feel sorry for people going to the trail ride places where they don't give them riding skills, and they end up coming off so sore. And the week-long or the 2-week dude ranch things, they have blisters literally on their bottoms, you know, by the 3rd day. And so it's like, I don't want to ride anymore.
And that's why we try and teach the basic riding when we have 2 hands, not just riding like a cowboy with 1 hand and reining. All our horses are direct reining. But horses are just so therapeutic, mentally, emotionally, and physically. They're like God's gift to man. You know, we've been riding horses for thousands and thousands of years. We've only been via vehicle in like the last 100 and some odd years, and that's nothing in the big picture. You know, could you imagine doing this all day, every day? And give a lot of respect to your ancestors, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But we want people to see what's out here. You know, that was why we wanted to show you the Greenway and how nice it is to get out into the fresh air and be surrounded by trees and horses and peace. You know? And this whole farm we've watched love and laughter.
You're going to start crying, don't do that.
Well, it's a family business. You guys had, I'm sure you could sit here and tell us endless stories of how what you do have not only impacted your own life, but the lives of other people, you know, that come in. And what I found, I've been on a bunch of trail rides in my years, but one of the things I noticed right off the bat with you guys that was totally different, and we did one not too long ago, I won't say where, but I don't think they even talked to us after we got there. Like, I got off the horse, I was like, they didn't speak to me for a full hour. We got off and I was like, that was it. I was like, it was really odd. Is the amount of conversation and education that you guys put in that hour or two that they're here. And I think one thing that was really cool is that people walk away getting to know you guys, one, and also feeling good about what they just did.
Knowing
and
a new
maybe
skill.
they fall,
knowing a new skill. Heck yeah,
and
that's
it's
my
important.
favorite.
They may have fallen in love with something that they end up getting far more into.
They come and buy a horse.
Yeah, they may buy
never
a horse.
leave.
Or they're determined to go buy a little farm.
Yeah.
And it changes. We've changed.
Yes.
Yeah. Or they may be like my daughter who's planning on moving in.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, that happens.
so
That's why she can't close, because who are you going to say? This is her favorite. Who are you going to say no to?
yeah.
Yep.
It makes such an impact on people, and it's as our society continues to build out and land becomes
More scarce.
you know, and outdoor activities and things that tie us back to our culture and our history, especially here in this state.
Yeah.
I think these things and what you guys do become more and more important, that we pass this on to the next generation. To your point of, this is what it was like your great grandparents that made their way out here at some point in time. They didn't drive out here in a Ford, you know.
Exactly.
Well, the Horseshoe Road, as I told
awesome
you,
way to put that.
Badias was born in Badias, Texas, and when I interviewed my grandmother when I was 12 back in 1962, she said, "Yeah, I was born down in Badias, Texas," and
yeah,
and said,
I forget the story.
So it's really kind of interesting how that comes back.
Oh my goodness.
Short story: the last 50-mile ride I did was right after Christmas before New Year's, and I was sore. I was out of, I had not kept up in good shape, and the horse I was riding made yours look like a rocking horse. Okay. He was bad. And I've been doing this all day, and I was on the last loop, had maybe 7-8 miles to go. And I start getting phone calls, and I've got a horse that's colicking here at the ranch, and we're addressing that and some other problems. And then a man calls me out of the blue I hadn't heard from in probably 8 years. And he goes, Darolyn, he said, I've got a suicide case on my hand. He says, she's got to have a horse fix. And I'm like, okay. And I said, let me call the ranch. And they were here in Houston. And I was up in Cleveland, Texas.
Yeah.
And I called Lainey. And I said, Lainey, you got to get a horse ready for Steve's friend. And I said, she's got to ride.
Yeah.
And she did. And everything's all well now.
It's all good.
But that's
Saving lives.
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like a lot of this stuff, people don't understand. Like, it's a life-changing experience and life-altering or path-altering experience for some people. So
we can have a horrible day going, and I'm like, let me on a horse.
Yeah.
And my staff knows. They go, get on a horse.
Yeah.
And so
it's a game changer for a lot of people. And so I've always been a big advocate of people getting out with their animal or their space. My pawpaw was a rancher. I never understood why he liked standing out there with those cows so much.
But
the older I've gotten, now I realize I was like, oh, that was his spot.
Yeah.
It was more for him than it was them, type of thing. So, we really appreciate you guys having us out, and it's been such a treat to learn more about what you guys do and how you do it, and now why, because it's such an intricate part of
and you have
our
just a
Texas
little
history.
bit more skill.
Yes.
And so does your daughter.
Yep. Like I said,
Everyone else we shanghaied into riding with us.
we got a bunch of them out here today, and we thank you for. We had Miss Harris County.
I know.
Yeah.
And I felt like we really pulled all the stops out. We had Kate Watson out there with us, and Miss Harris County. So I don't know if I come back next time, maybe y'all
Have Miss Texas.
I don't know, get McConaughey out here or something like that.
Yeah.
Get him on a horse. But we appreciate that. So how do people, just so as they're watching this, and we'll put stuff in the comments and things like that, but how do people find you guys? What's the best way to locate and contact you guys?
CypressTrailsRanch.com.
Okay.
And it'll give you all the information you could possibly want to know, from phone numbers to you can make reservations right off the
And
website.
if you just want to talk to somebody, you can.
And give us a phone
Call
number.
straight to our
My cell
office.
number's on there. So
There you go. Simple and easy. And if you've never ridden before, or if you've ridden a million times, this is a spot for you. They got a horse for everybody.
yeah. And
So-
our motto is ride, really ride.
Ride, really ride. All right, I like it. Well, you guys have carved out definitely your little spot of Texas and kept it your own. And we love experiencing that. So thank you for letting us come out, and thank you for being on the show and talking a little bit more about it. If you guys want to find them, look them up and come out and visit them here in Untold, Texas. And we appreciate you guys joining the show. Give us a like, a subscribe, and a share. And we'll see you next time on the Cowboy Experience. Adios.